Well, it looks like we're live. Greetings, world, and greetings, Seven Spot. We've got a special for you today because we've got a Rocky Mountain High. Before we get started, I'd just like to let everyone know that we are broadcasting from the palatial Seven Spot Studios in South Surrey, British Columbia. And today it is a balmy 3 degrees Celsius. And we're expecting some snowy drizzle today and through the evening. It's pre-Christmas and it's a Christmas type of weather. And where we're broadcasting from today and I'm calling from outside of Denver in Golden, I believe, and it is +1, clear and crisp and even as I understand it. Without saying too much more, I am just going to bring in to the show Randy Webb. Randy Webb, how are you today?
I'm well, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
As we were saying in the pre-show, these things are never about me. They're always about life stories, and your story is compelling, and you haven't told it to me yet. But I can see from the snoop that I am, and by snooping your site, your web page, your Facebook page, that you are fastidious, and you have taken it upon yourself to go ahead and build a 7. We're going to do the 2 questions thing.
Okay.
It's the why and then how long did it take? So before you show us your 7, which is right over your shoulder and looks like it's going to be a great show, tell me, why did you decide to build a 7?
Well, I've always liked lightweight, unique cars. I started as a kid in karting and loved karting, and then got into Porsche stuff. I lived in northern New Jersey at the time, and I've lived all over the U.S. And I got a job working for a guy named Doug Arneo, who is a 914 racer. And then shortly after that, got a job at a place called Promotion Motorsports with Peter Daw, who was another Porsche guy. So my first car, I saved up all my money from pumping gas and working at different places and got a 914 and started autocrossing that before I got my license.
Cool.
My mom actually drove me to the autocross course, and then I would autocross, and then she'd drive the car home.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So I've always been into unique cars and lightweight cars. And so moving forward in my life, I had a British car shop for a little while and worked solely on Minis and then later Lotuses, but Elises.
Okay.
And loved the Lotus. And I've always loved the idea that Colin Chapman had of a car-like motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
A motorcycle that was really a car, and hence the 7. So I actually started building one when I operated that shop, and then got recalled to my current position too, which is my primary job as a pilot. And when I got recalled, I kind of slowed the business side down, and then eventually closed the shop, the Mini and Lotus shop. And was working on that car, which was a build from scratch as well, with the Miata based components. And that was more of a self-designed frame because there was no frame at that time. This was back in the early 2000s.
Okay, cool.
So there was no frame really for the Miata. So I was using the original book that Ron Champion wrote and building from scratch on that. Well, fast forward a little bit, and the economy tanked, and I guess that was, 2008?
Yep.
And I ended up getting furloughed a second time from my primary job, as it's all seniority based, as a unionized type of work. And I ended up getting a job overseas. So I had to sell my entire project. So I had gotten that car up to the point of just about a roller. So I had the differential mounted, I had suspension done. And I had to sell the whole project. And we moved overseas, and I ended up just getting an older, like a 3 or 4 year old Renault Clio Cup car, which was a unique car that I can't get in the States.
Yeah.
And I've again love hot hatch light cars, and so I bought one of those and autocrossed over there and did a couple track days and did some really fun karting. We would did endurance karting, so
Endurance karting.
12 and 24-hour races over in Dubai as a team, and the teams were so eclectic. It was great. We had a Malaysian, Brit, Spaniard, Italian, me. So really a cool group of guys that did that kind of karting.
Wow.
So then fast forward, I came back. We moved to Houston initially, back from overseas, and I built a motorcycle from scratch because I liked motorcycles too. So I say scratch. It was a Honda CB750 that was literally a basket case in Tupperware bins. So took that back to life, bare metal, frame, hooped the back and built the motor and made it an 836 instead of 736cc. And did new wiring on it. So that was kind of my first from scratch really build that came to fruition, where I actually see it.
And that was a self-designed frame?
Not much, a little bit. Changed the rear suspension pickups and changed the hoop in the rear for the seat, so a little different. But not really a self-designed frame, but the first frame-up restoration, if you will, from scratch.
Okay, got it.
Where I actually got to see it finished, as opposed to the first project. So finished that bike, and then we ended up moving to Colorado for my job, which is where we had been for years and where my old shop was. And so it was kind of like a homecoming. And then we ended up moving into a house that had enough space for me to build my 7. So a little different than my first project in that it was the Haynes manual is what I was looking at. Obviously, that has to be changed and modified to do left-hand drive and to do the Miata drivetrain and steering and so on and so forth. So just a kind of a rough idea what I used from the Haynes manual. And then the rest of it was kind of self-built.
Okay, that's very cool. Do you mind if I ask? I mean, you're in the Denver area. Did you, when you decided to build, did you work with or collaborate in any way with anybody else? To the idea that the Flying Miata people are down that way.
They are, yeah. So no, actually, Keith Tanner is one of the guys that works for Flying Miata and had built a 7 that was Miata based, using a kit though, but still similar. Back, I guess that was in the early 2000s as well. So I used his book and looked at his book when I was building my own. On the first project, but never got in touch with him. I might have emailed him a couple times, but I don't think we've ever really touched base. Cool. That said, on this project, still haven't touched base with Flying Miata or Rocky Mountain Catering for that matter.
Okay,
which is also based here.
Exactly.
But there's a gentleman that built his own Caterham, which is literally a Caterham frame.
Yes.
He built from scratch though. So it was the Caterham plans, but he used tubing and welded it all together and built his own Caterham. His name's John Grimberg, great guy, who is an artist and machinist. And so I saw his build on lowcostusa.com, which is one of the forums. And he's in Golden, which was just unbelievable. So I got in touch with him through the website, and now we've become fast friends. And he's been driving his car for a few years now, and has come over a couple of times and helped me with the wiring and helped me with different steps of the project as moral support too, just kind of bouncing ideas off of.
It's great to have that. And sometimes that was, again, talking about our pre-show time discussion about part of the reason we're doing this is to offer people a little bit of substance so they can keep treading water when they're in the middle of it. And it's sometimes so wonderful to have somebody in your corner saying, stick with it, do this little thing, try that. And
it really is.
Just to keep you moving in the right direction.
Absolutely, because there's times where, you know, life gets in the way or changes happen or you get stuck on something with the project and you think, okay, I'm going to walk away from this.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to have somebody else to say, hey, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. No,
That
and in my case, I have the most wonderful woman in the world in my corner who just basically loves being with me. And she just sat in that bird's cage while I was building it. And then as we got a little bit further into it, she just stuck with me and just said, you know, just try a little bit here, just keep going. And you really need it. You just need it sometimes.
You really do. And that's also been helpful for me because my wife's been super supportive and has allowed me to spend hours upon hours in the shop. And we moved like this project has been about a 3-year project or so.
Yeah. So that was the next question. Again, how long did it take? You know, and so it's 3 years for you. And you know, I built from a kit, so it was more like a mechanical kit that you kind of assemble. So it's really it's totally a different beast than what you're doing. I just got nothing but props for what you're doing. I just before we go any further, I'm just going to add one user comment from one of the Facebook users watching right now. And they say that they're into it for 2.5 years for me. Long time because I was my own boss and I hadn't as much time as I wanted. So
I've said that often during the build is, man, my job keeps getting in the way.
Yeah.
So, well, that was one of the things that took a while for it to get to this point, and it's still not finished. There's still a few things I need to do, but it's drivable now. So
more than drivable. I've seen your pictures, and you know, with your permission, I'll be stealing a bunch of them to kind of. I think I mentioned we're going to be building a parallel site, a parallel universe to 7-Spot, where we can compile these stories, so that other people who are on this journey can reach out and find a little bit of encouragement as they get midway through the building process. So why don't you, now we've had a chat about how long, why don't you tell us a bit about it and tell us and show us what you got?
Sure. I have been building for 3 years or so. I started again with the idea of building from scratch. So 1-inch tubing, 3/4-inch tubing, made the build table, and then built the frame and found a donor, Miata, and ended up buying that, which is a 93 1.6 liter, and did have the later limited slip in it and later brakes, which was great. So I bought that and started building 3 years ago. Then during that 3 years, we've moved house. And I bought my own house, and then we built the shop that I'm sitting in. So that was a project, and I learned a lot doing that. So I did the electrical, which I'd never done before.
Scaring the heck out of me. I can think of some of the conversations I've had with other builders, and sometimes, you know, the wiring is so pristine and beautiful, and other times I have to comment. I said, you know what, your wiring looks like mine.
Yeah, so it's been great. So that whole process has been, and obviously I have a full-time job. So you know, during that 3 years, I've changed fleets in my profession. So I was a 737 instructor and pilot, and I've changed to the 777s, which sucked a bunch of my time. So, you know, you can build. That's the nice thing about these cars is you can kind of build at your leisure, which is awesome. So what I'll do, I'm going to see if this will work. And just start the cam and try to enter the studio with my phone.
Okay.
And we'll see if that works.
Well, we're going to give it a shot. This is always an adventure. This is the beauty of live stuff. Now I'm going to add this to the stream, and I'm going to take that one out. There we go. Now, there we go. And I'm about to give you the full screen. And if you wouldn't mind doing this, Randy, could you rotate the phone so we're not in portrait mode, but landscape? There we go. That works perfect. Oh, and you have no sound. So I'm going to try. One moment. I think you've got your sound turned off. Can you hear me at all? Okay, that works better.
All right. So what I'll do is try to do this where you guys can see.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to do because I can't flip my camera around.
No, that's quite all right. You're doing a great job.
All right, so let me
And
mute
I'll
the
just
other.
direct you if a little bit high or a bit low, but you're doing great.
Yeah, let me mute the other.
I've
All right,
already
so what
done
I've got
so.
here
Yeah.
is the car where it stands. So let me just raise this. Apologize for the shooting. Stand by.
No, this is great.
And we're going to try to lower this and get it down without me
It's usually a two-handed
losing
thing
my
there.
phone.
Yeah.
All right, so what I've got is a Haynes Roadster frame
Yeah.
with Miata adjustments.
Okay, got it.
The engine is the 1.6 liter. It does have ARP rod bolts. It has ACL race bearings in it. And it has a Mega Squirt running everything. The reason that I did that is because I went turbo. So it's a turbocharged Miata.
Mhm.
I'm using what they call a China Charger. It's just a T3 based turbo.
Mhm.
And I did that for cost. So it's basically a throwaway turbo, and it's been working great. And I've had good experience with talking to others that also have a similar setup on their Miata.
Yeah.
So I kind of used that. And let's see if you guys can see it now.
See
All
it
right,
just
so
fine.
here we go. So the gauges I got from Speed Hut, I actually was able to design those, which was kind of slick,
Nice.
kind of fun. I've got some billet buttons here that run my lights, horn, kind of. There you go.
That works.
Yep. I've got my hazards here that, obviously turn on all the flashers, and that works, which is great. That's a lot of fun. The first time you can flip that and it works.
Yeah. It's a terrible thing when the first time you anticipate and you wonder if it's going to go up in smoke.
That's right. And luckily it didn't. So that's kind of nice. I've got AEM gauges down there just for air fuel and for boost. I don't know if, let's see if you guys can see that. Yeah. Seat heaters, which is because I have no other heat in the car. I didn't want to take up weight of having an actual heater.
And you live in Colorado, so the whole thing of the Rocky Mountain High is like right now it's 1 degree, but it can feel like it's about minus 3 or 4, and so that the heated seats are very, very nice.
Oh, they're super great, and extend the driving season, which is kind of the big help, right?
Yeah.
Then I've got the windshield I just finished, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Although you don't like it, the idea, but it's a driving requirement for registration purposes.
It is in Colorado, unfortunately. So I still may go with an aero screen. I've been looking at doing that, but kind of let's see if you see the car pretty well that from that angle.
Yeah, looks fabulous.
So that's where it currently sits, and then I'll pull the bonnet here. Stand by. Let me see if I can just set this up over here while I'm.
Believe me, if you have to put the phone down, we're looking at your rafters. That's fine too.
Okay. So bonnet was a fun project as well. Metal shaping, kind of learning the metal shaping trade. And here's the engine. This is kind of the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, 1.6 liter, turbocharged, bigger injectors. I used the Mega Squirt to run a speed density style air fuel metering. It's so no more mass airflow sensor. And we have an inlet air temp sensor, obviously boost gauge. Wiring was basically a divorced system. The stock NA Miata incorporates both the chassis and engine harness.
Okay.
And so what I did was divorced that. So the engine harness is completely separate from the chassis harness.
And so when you divorced it, did you take the loom apart and then isolate each wire?
Yeah, essentially what I did for the engine side was every sensor that goes to the engine, I took those plugs and cut them.
Wow.
Then where they terminated, I cut those and labeled everything. There was a huge, in fact, stand by. I'll stick this over here for a second, and I'll go get you how I did this. See if I can set that down there. Stand by. But essentially what I did was I used a spreadsheet.
I'm getting a small amount of feedback here, folks, so I'm just going to talk over that while he disappears. I just comment. Okay, we're back, Randy. Go for it.
Sounds good. So what I did was essentially made a, see if I can show you this, a spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah, great.
And all of the
all the wiring,
ECU
and you've got them all
plugs.
color coded as well.
Yep, color coded, and just kind of built it all, and
Totally
then
mapped.
used my whiteboard over here to note what I was using for my chassis harness, what my ECU pinouts were. I don't know if you guys can see that.
I can see it perfect. I was just reflecting on my own whiteboard. It's much smaller with much less stuff on it. Because
I'm a big whiteboard fan, as you can see. I've got two.
Yeah. You tick them off as you go. It's great.
That's right. So so the chassis harness and the engine harness were a big part of the build that I was really concerned about, and it actually ended up being one of my favorite parts of the build.
And working with the Mega Squirt, how was that?
That's actually been a blast. Super simple to use.
Yeah.
And plug in, like, I don't know if you've seen my short video of the first start, but I was shocked that it all worked.
Yeah.
So it just fired up and ran, which was great. In a nod to my past, the seats are actually from a 914.
Okay, cool.
So they're 914 seats that the headrest was cut down on, and then a local upholsterer did the houndstooth for me.
Oh, very nice.
So the fuel tank is bespoke for the car. That's aluminum. So I bought a TIG welder to learn how to do that.
Wow.
All Summit Racing, and then we used the Holley setup for which is cool because it has a really nice sock, if you will, in the bottom that keeps fuel from sloshing. There are baffles inside as well, but that keeps you from not being able to use all your fuel.
Yeah, and
so that's basically the car.
And making sure that you can use it on the track, it has to be sponged or baffled.
Baffled. Yep.
Yeah. Can I ask you, with the stock Miata differential, did you do any reinforcement on that harness?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay.
So if you take I don't know if I'll be able to. I can show it to you.
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is a unit that I did before I got my TIG welder. So earlier on, K Miata is the company, makes this reinforcement plate, and you can see this little notch.
Okay.
That notch is from Mazda, so that if you're in an accident, it snaps the diff.
That's right.
And breaks the ear so that it doesn't poke into the passengers.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want that to happen, right? If you've got a lot of torque or you're solid mounting your diff, then that causes problems.
Yeah.
So this reinforcement plate takes this notch from being a weak point in the arm and just strengthens it.
Wow.
And it, like I said earlier, it's already the Torsen limited slip.
Yeah. Wow. Nice. What a beautiful build.
Thank you.
Oh, we thank you. This is just literally awesome. And you're already licensed, I see.
Yeah, well, no.
No.
So this license plate is actually off my old classic Mini, just so that I could mount the plate mounts and get the light in the right spot and all of that.
Yeah,
that licensing couldn't happen until I finished the windshield. So now that the windshield's done, I did get in touch with Josh from Rocky Mountain Caterham because he had a great font. That's the only reason I really got in touch with him, on one of the roundels he had on his car. And I said, man, that'd be cool to have. And he, for free, made me up one and sent me an email. Super nice guy. And then also said, hey, I've got a clip-on windshield wiper that you can use for passing DOT, and then you can give it back and you're good to go. Wow, so that's the plan.
Great. Yeah. Wow.
is to get that wiper from Josh over at Rocky Mountain Caterham, and then get it registered during the winter before spring driving season starts.
Yeah, all those things that hoops you have to jump through that suddenly fall off after the license plate is put on your car.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then the roll bar is next. And my bender actually just came, was it yesterday or the day before? So I've just put that together. I've got to anchor it to the floor and go get some roll bar tubing. And then I'm going to build 2 different roll bars.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a plate. I don't know if you can see it right there.
Yes.
Okay, that plate is for the forward part of the cage that I still have to drill if I'm going to build it.
Yeah.
It's on both sides, but the intent is to build a street hoop, roll bar with just the down tubes, and then build a track version that has the forward part of the cage as well with an overhead front halo.
And that's exactly what I'm planning as well. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yep.
Not that I'm brilliant, but we think the same. It's great. And underneath, I mean, is a nose cone question.
Yep.
Is that a self-made nose cone?
No. The scuttle and the rear body tub all came from Kit Car Direct in the UK.
Okay.
And there's a company called Equinox in the UK that built that setup, and they call it a wide mouth.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the scoop underneath.
Yeah, I do too, and that allows me to do future oil cooler if I want to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to initially, just based on feedback from guys that track the Miatas. So and I used to race spec Miatas, which is why I leaned toward this. I think this donor car was my 5th Miata that I've bought. That's an NA Miata. So I knew the car really well.
Yeah. Now, having spoken to Bobby Winterroad, who built her own Westfield, she mentioned that I think it was through was it through Flying Miata? I believe they made a surround for the radiator to help direct airflow, so it actually went to the radiator. And
doesn't bypass here.
Yeah, because that's a situation in my car too. Because I mean, it's much worse or much more. The downside of it is much more evident where you live because
we don't have any air.
That's right. So is that in your future?
It is. Yeah. So cool. Here's some of the parts that I've been working on. So I've got my front wings. I've got my grills and I've got the mirrors need to go on. So once that's done, the plan is to test it this next season. I'm just going to start with autocrossing it.
Yep.
And set it up that way. And then once that's kind of sorted as far as suspension goes, it's not real high speed. Usually it's not an issue with cooling. But then once I start tracking it, that might be an issue. So the plan is before I start tracking it to have ducting properly done through this whole area here.
And it's one of those self-built things that's easy enough to do. As far
Absolutely.
As I'm concerned.
I've got plenty of aluminum around the wall.
Yeah, funny how that happens.
Yeah.
Wow, what a beauty. It's like,
thanks.
Yeah, you are so welcome. No, we thank you. It's just like great. So what can I say? Gosh, thanks. So you've been into it for 2.5 years, and you are on the threshold of having it become street legal.
Yep.
You're going to add the rear hoop and potentially a track hoop at the front for doing track days. Do you have any future plans cosmetically? For instance,
so I've got to still make the front wing stays. Once the front wing stays are done, I am planning to, and I still haven't decided this, whether to wrap it or paint it, but same color.
Yeah.
And then I do like I don't know how to say it, but basically finished look.
Yeah.
Instead of the bare aluminum. A lot of guys like the bare aluminum. That's great. But I kind of like the finished look. So
I'm with you, and mine's 16 years old now, so there's a lot of sins that can be hidden with either a wrap or a paint job. Put it that way.
Exactly.
Because all my fiberglass is just like, it's had it. It's It's time
Yeah.
for-
That's the issue. So I want to make it look uniform. So once I
Yeah.
get it all put together after the registration process, that's kind of the plan. And
Yeah.
then the same guys that did my center console here, this is just a simple marine grade kind of
Is it
naga hide.
ABS?
I want to do a tonneau cover as well. So
Okay, cool.
after the roll bar gets built, the tonneau cover will be built. And then as far as future plans, drive it.
Yeah, drive it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put myself back into the picture because I'm so exciting, but I wanted to bring.
Sure. And I can go back to the laptop as well.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
There's 3 of us in this stream. I'll take that one out. There we are, Randy. And your sound is off.
There you go.
There, that sounds much better again. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Been waiting a while. I know that you said many moons ago. You said, I'll be happy to do this, but I'm just not at that point. I feel comfortable.
Yeah, I wasn't real comfortable with me getting it finished, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, congratulations, because you passed that point of no return that we've all got to, and your feet are not stuck in the clay because you can drive it. How exciting is that?
Oh, it was a great feeling.
Yeah.
The first start, there are a couple of milestones. The flicking the hazard lights, honking the horn, turning on the headlights, seeing all the wiring work. That's great.
Yeah. Well, in my case,
when you start the engine the first time and it fires, it's just a shocking feeling. It's a shocking happiness. Yeah. And then the first drive down the block, and the sound that it made, and everything, kind of becomes visceral at that point, and real and visceral. And now taking my wife around the block, taking my neighbor around the block, it's just a fun experience once you get to this point.
And with your wife, is she a fan? Is she a believer?
She's a driver in her own right. She's won some autocrosses, and she's supportive. Very supportive, and she knows this is my passion. So it's a pretty positive passion, I think, compared to some vices I could have.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say, on behalf of all of us here at 7 Spot, we've been on for over half an hour now. Gosh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
And I just wish you and your lovely wife a terrific Christmas and a happy New Year. And please, when you do get that nice plate on the back of the car, send us a note, let us know.
Absolutely, I will, Jim.
All right, guys, before we say goodbye, I'm going to say, in terms of future programming this week, we've only got one other show planned, but who knows, might have another one coming, but it's going to be from Japan. Japan coming your way on the 12th, on the 17th here and 18th in Japan with Tad and George. And then we've got some Christmas-oriented festivities. They may not be live, but some of them will. Never know. And we'll keep you tuned on that. But for now, Randy, thank you, and have yourself a good day.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas.
All right. Cheers to you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.